We know Abe Lincoln. By many biographical accounts, he was very adept at working with people. But it was not always like this. When he was a practicing lawyer in Springfield, Illinois, he often wrote anonymous letters and criticized many of his opponents. He even wrote cute poems and left them on the streets for people to find. He was just not a very popular guy. In the autumn of 1842, he ridiculed a man named James Shields. Lincoln poked fun at him through an anonymous letter published in a local newspaper. The people rolled with laughter. Shields was furious, and he challenged Lincoln to a legal duel. Lincoln didn't want to fight. He was opposed to dueling, but he couldn't get out of it to save his honor. He was given the choice of weapons, and because he had long arms, he chose what was called the cavalry broadsword, and he took lessons in sword fighting from a West Point graduate. The day came, and he and Shields met on the Mississippi River. They were prepared to fight to the death, but at the last minute, somehow they reconciled and avoided injury or death. When we criticize, we may not inflict death, but we do injure others. This was a turning point an incident in Lincoln's life. It taught him a lesson in dealing with people. Never again did he write an insulting letter. Never again did he ridicule anyone. And from that time on, he almost never criticized anybody for anything. He had many occasions to criticize and be angry, especially as the president during the Civil War. Time after time during the Civil War, Lincoln put a new general at the head of the army at the Potomac, and each one of them, McClellan, Pope, Burnside, Hooker, Meade, they blundered tragically and drove Lincoln to the point of almost insanity and pacing the floor in anger. Half the nation savagely condemned these incompetent generals, but Lincoln had malice towards none and charity for all. He held his peace. Oscar Wilde once said, "Criticism is the only reliable form of an autobiography. It tells you more about the psychology of the critic than the people that he's criticizing. Astute professionals can formulate a viable, almost a diagnostic hypothesis about people who criticize. For example, John Goodman knows that he can predict with almost 90% accuracy a divorce by the way people criticize. Criticism is destructive to relationships when it is about personality or character rather than behavior. When it's filled with blame, when it's focused on not improvement, or it's not focused on improvement, when it's based on one right way to do things, or it's based on belittling. Criticism in close relationships starts out usually low-key, and in most cases it escalates over time, forming a downward spiral of resentment. The criticized feels controlled, which frustrates the critical person. And then he steps up to criticism, increasing the sense of being controlled, and so on. Criticism fails because it embodies two things that human beings hate the most. It calls for submission, and we hate to submit. It devalues, and we hate to feel devalued. While people hate to submit, though, we actually like to cooperate. Critical people seem oblivious to this key point about human nature. The valued self cooperates, the devalued self resists. If you want change behavior from a partner, a child, a relative, or friend, first show value for the person. If you want resistance, then criticize. This is your friend Scotty Nichols. I invite you to think about how you may criticize others and work on that little by little. And I do believe it will improve the relationships that you have with them. As always, I'm here to share with you the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and positive. I'll see you at the top.